I switched from the iPhone 13 mini to the iPhone Air, two of Apple's smallest phones, just in different ways. I loved the iPhone 13 mini, but with iOS 26 it was really showing its age, and I wanted to see if the new iPhone Air, the thinnest iPhone ever created, could be the best choice when upgrading my phone. So does going from the small to larger screen make sense? Does the battery life really hold up? And is the single camera a deal breaker? Find out as I take you through my thoughts on the Switch. The iPhone 13 mini was always for a specific kind of person. You bought it because you wanted a small phone, something you could slip into your pocket, use with one hand, and never feel weighted down by. And honestly, I loved mine for all of those reasons. But as much as I wanted it to last forever, the reality is it just doesn't hold up easily in 2025. The battery drains way too fast, especially on iOS 26, which I did a separate video on recently. Apps don't feel optimized for the tiny display anymore, menus are cramped, the cameras are falling behind, and the display just isn't as smooth as today's 120Hz displays. And with iOS 26, it crossed the line from quirky but usable to annoying and limiting. The phone didn't suddenly become bad, it just feels like living in the wrong era. So even if I love the Mini, if I need to upgrade my primary phone, what should I choose? That's where the iPhone Air comes in. Apple isn't marketing it as a spiritual successor to the Mini, but in many ways it feels like one. It's not small in the way the Mini was, but it is the thinnest and lightest iPhone Apple has ever made. And that thinness changes everything. Instead of shrinking the display, Apple kept a larger screen, but stripped away the bulk that usually comes with it. Instead of sacrificing battery life, they gave it an updated, more modern chip to make it more efficient. Instead of packing in bulky camera bumps, they gave it one super powerful camera, and where they skimped out was on a single speaker, a feature I didn't really use often anyway. So for people like me who miss the convenience of a tiny phone but didn't want to sacrifice modern performance, the Air feels like the compromise we didn't realize we were waiting for. The iPhone Air is marketed as something refreshing and new, and honestly, I thought a lot of it was just sales, but then you hold it in your hand. And what I found was that the iPhone Air's thinner, lighter build hugely improves one-handed use. Even having a bigger display than the 17 Pro, it somehow feels smaller. Your fingers just wrap around it more easily thanks to a slimmer frame. In fact, Quinn said it best. I thought I wanted a smaller screen, but really I just needed a thinner phone. Because now I can still reach across the display without awkward stretching. And if I do need to prop the phone up so I can reach something that's further away, it's so light that the action becomes effortless. And slipping it into my pocket feels closer to the 13 mini than you'd expect. With a phone so light and so thin, it sort of just disappears. It's a different kind of portability, but it just works. I've tried other phones like the Samsung S25 Edge, but I think Apple's ability to make this phone even slimmer and the choice to polish and round the edges make it slightly more usable. And it's funny how such a simple design tweak can actually completely change the outcome. Every time I leave the house with the Air, I'm reminded of just how functional it is. I mean, just look at it. Even with the case on, this phone is still incredibly slim. This case, by the way, was my top choice in my all cases review on the channel now. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. And it's the MOFT case, today's sponsor on the channel. It's made of vegan leather with this soft touch finish that wraps around the sides, and it even provides a button for camera control to allow for pressure and touch sensitivity. And it looks great. It's just comfortable to hold in day-to-day use. While typing, while filming, I've been loving it. And I know I'll get a lot of hate for paying this much money to put a case on an Air, but the fact that the case is so slim makes it a great choice to still enjoy having a thin, protected phone. But then add their snap stand wallet. This technically works with like anything MagSafe, but looks awesome when paired to this color. It's a portable stand that's always ready on the go, and it doubles as a slim wallet storing up to 2 cards. I love that it lets me stand my phone up in portrait mode, in floating mode, or pull it down to landscape mode for a more low profile stand, say if you're at a coffee shop. They have a lot of color pairings with this one, so you can match the one that best suits your style. Also, new this year, but I've been using it with all of my videos recently, the Snap Tripod Stand. Also a slim MagSafe stand, and a wallet. Again, storing up to 2 cards, but this one can prop up into a tripod to elevate your phone and help you capture the perfect shot. You can completely adjust the angles to your liking back and forth, and that way you can always ensure you are getting the perfect shot. You can even flip it into landscape mode. The amount of flexibility here is absolutely incredible. You can even take it down to a stand mode or you can pick it up and use it in more of a vlogging mode. It all packs away into a portable form factor, and it's officially part of my EDC for on-the-go filming. If you want to pick any of these up, I will leave links in the description. Now, back to the video. If the idea is to upgrade from the Mini and get a more modern, more powerful phone, then how does the Air stack up? In my testing, performance is incredible. I don't even know if I can explain it, honestly. On my iPhone 13 mini, iOS 26 was a nightmare, slow animations, constant stutter, everything just felt heavy. On my 16 Pro from last year, it was better, but still clunky in ways that just didn't really make sense. But then I tried it on the Air, and it completely changed my perspective. It's so responsive, so crisp, so snappy that it made me realize iOS 26 isn't actually designed for older hardware at all. This is an OS made for the Air, and when paired together, it's like Apple finally remembered how to make software and hardware feel seamless again. So if you've landed on this video as a Mini user, the one thing that you probably want answered is battery life. I mean, Apple themselves announced this phone, and then in the same breath, they announced a battery pack designed specifically for it, which didn't really instill confidence. So I'm really happy to say the iPhone Air battery life is great. It easily lasts all day, which is something the Mini could never truly achieve without constant anxiety. The new A19 Pro chip doesn't just power smooth animations, it also manages energy incredibly well. Most days I end up with more than 20% battery, and that's with pretty heavy use. I can't lie to you and say it's anywhere close to like a Pro Max or even the current Pro, but it doesn't really need to be. For how thin the phone is, it's honestly impressive. It's the first time I can confidently say the slight trade-off in battery life compared to a Pro is worth it for the design and how thin and effortless it is. And once I got through that first couple of days of setting up the phone, the battery life was amazing. So you create a phone super thin, you still pack in great performance, great battery, great display, the dynamic island. What do you need to leave out to make that happen? Well, the Air only has one speaker, and honestly, it's not good. Audio sounded tinny and hollow, there's no stereo separation, and honestly, it feels like a step back from every modern phone. Playing music through the speaker works, but leaves something to be desired. Calls on speakerphone sounded a little worse when side by side, but not in a major way. But then I thought about how little I actually use my phone speakers at all. The stereo setup on my Mini didn't sound that great either, and I default to AirPods for almost everything anyway. Don't get me wrong, should this phone have better speakers for the price? Absolutely. I'm not saying it shouldn't, but if you're going to have a phone with this many features packed in and you need to leave something out, I agree that the speaker is probably the right move on this one. Let me know in the comments if you agree that that was in fact the right move. There's one other thing that Apple left out here, and this one is the only fault that you can really give the Air. The single camera is the biggest source of complaints I've seen, not from just tech influencers, but from average consumers who are now buying and getting this phone, and it makes sense why. People can live without the telephoto zoom camera lens, but in the process of making this phone thin, you're also losing that 0.5 times ultra-wide lens, and for that, a lot of people, myself included, this hurts. And because of that, people are returning this phone in waves. Now, in terms of quality, the photos themselves are better than the 13 mini, higher resolution, going from 12 megapixel to now a 48 megapixel. And that means in ideal lighting, you are getting sharper detail, better processing, and that's all true in my testing. But funnily enough, the same limitations and complaints from my Mini remain. Portrait blur still looks fake, and low light shots still just don't hold up with a lot of blur. It's good in perfect lighting, don't get me wrong, but it is far from great. And a reminder, the iPhone 13 mini still had the ultra-wide camera. But then we get to the front camera, and this is a massive upgrade. Finally, we get higher quality selfies going from 12 megapixels to 18, and Apple added something quietly genius, auto rotation. The camera can now switch to landscape without tilting your phone at all, and it detects more people entering the frame, automatically widening and adjusting the shot. This feature is not unique to the Air, but it is one of those subtle changes that actually improves your day-to-day use more than an extra lens would. So let's talk for a second about Air-specific accessories. Do we need them? Apple will probably try to convince you yes. They've already got the Air MagSafe battery pack, and they even included it in the spec sheet when they're advertising the battery life of the phone. But here's the truth. You can still use the normal MagSafe accessories. They just look a little weird. The phone is thinner and taller, so wallets don't sit flush, and battery packs look oversized. But did MagSafe battery packs ever look that good in the first place? I don't think so. If you've already got accessories that work, don't bother replacing them. Unless you're obsessed with matching the Air aesthetic, you're not really going to be missing out on anything. So is it worth switching from the iPhone 13 mini to the Air? Honestly, yes. I went into this expecting the larger screen to bother me and that the thinness would just be a gimmick and this would probably be a hate video, but the opposite happened. The screen is fantastic and the thin design makes it feel closer to the 13 mini than I ever thought possible. You give up a second camera, sure. You give up stereo speakers too, but in return, you get a phone that feels modern, lasts all day, and makes iOS 26 feel usable again. If you loved the mini, the iPhone Air might not be the exact replacement you dreamed of, but it's the closest thing Apple has made in years. And for me, that's enough. If you want to see what it's like to switch from the mini to another iPhone like the 17 Pro Max or the iPhone 17, let me know that in the comments and I'll be sure to get to it. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.